How does a man who conquered the known world by the age of 32, undefeated in battle, die suddenly in the prime of his life? Alexander the Great's untimely death in 323 BCE remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Was it illness, poison, or something far more sinister? By the time of his death, Alexander ruled an empire stretching from Greece to India. He was planning further conquests into Arabia, yet within days, the man who seemed invincible was gone. His sudden demise shocked the ancient world and left his empire without a clear successor, plunging it into chaos. But Alexander's death wasn't just a tragedy. It raised questions that have persisted for over 2 millennia. Ancient historians offered conflicting accounts describing symptoms ranging from fever to abdominal pain. Some suspected foul play, pointing to his ambitious generals as potential conspirators. Others believe his death was a result of natural causes, exacerbated by years of hard living and injuries. Today we'll delve into the leading theories behind Alexander's death, exploring whether it was a tragic accident, an elaborate plot, or perhaps even the wrath of the gods. The truth may never be fully known, but the possibilities are as fascinating as the man himself. In May 323 BCE, Alexander the Great arrived in Babylon, the heart of his empire. At 32 years old, he was at the peak of his power, undefeated in battle and revered as a god by many of his subjects. Yet tensions were brewing beneath the surface. Alexander had grand plans for further conquests, including a campaign into Arabia, but not everyone supported his vision. His generals, known as the Diadochi, were increasingly wary of his ambition. Meanwhile, his soldiers, exhausted from years of campaigning, were growing restless. The sequence of events leading to Alexander's death began during a banquet at the palace in Babylon. According to ancient accounts, he consumed a large amount of wine, after which he began experiencing severe abdominal pain. Over the next several days, his condition worsened. He developed a high fever, became bedridden, and eventually lost the ability to speak. Some sources suggest he lingered for 12 days before succumbing to his illness, while others claimed he died much more quickly. The conflicting timelines have fueled centuries of speculation about the true cause of his death. When Alexander finally passed, his empire was left in a precarious state. The man who had united so much of the ancient world was gone, and his absence would soon plunge his empire into chaos. One of the most plausible explanations for Alexander the Great's death is that he succumbed to natural causes. The symptoms described in historical accounts, fever, abdominal pain, and progressive weakness, align with several illnesses that were common in ancient Mesopotamia. One leading theory is that Alexander contracted typhoid fever, a bacterial infection spread through contaminated water or food. Ancient Babylon's unsanitary conditions made it a breeding ground for such diseases. Typhoid can cause high fever, abdominal pain, and delirium, symptoms consistent with Alexander's reported decline. Another possibility is malaria, which was endemic to the region. Like typhoid, malaria is known to cause fevers, chills, and fatigue. Given Alexander's exposure to swampy areas and his weakened state after years of military campaigns, malaria is a strong candidate. Some modern researchers suggest Alexander may have died from acute pancreatitis, triggered by his well-documented heavy drinking. Ancient sources like Plutarch and Arrian mention his excessive consumption of wine, including during the banquet preceding his illness. Pancreatitis and inflammation of the pancreas can cause severe abdominal pain and systemic infection, potentially explaining his rapid deterioration. Chronic health issues from battle wounds might also have played a role. Over his years of campaigning, Alexander sustained numerous injuries, including a life-threatening arrow wound to his chest during the Indian campaign. Such injuries could have led to long-term complications, including internal infections and weakened immunity, making him more susceptible to illness. Finally, some historians propose a combination of factors. Exhaustion from relentless campaigning, a weakened immune system, and exposure to new pathogens in Babylon might have created the perfect storm for Alexander's health to fail. Despite the compelling evidence for natural causes, there are inconsistencies. Some accounts describe Alexander's body showing no signs of decay for several days after his death, a detail that has fueled suspicions of foul play or mythologization. However, this could also be explained by embalming techniques or exaggeration by ancient writers. While natural causes remain one of the most likely explanations for Alexander's death, they leave many unanswered questions. Why did his symptoms worsen so suddenly? Could his generals, motivated by power, have exploited an illness to hasten his demise? The theory of natural causes offers plausible medical explanations, but it doesn't completely dispel the mysteries surrounding his final days. The idea that Alexander the Great was poisoned is one of the most enduring theories about his death. At the height of his power, Alexander had many enemies, both inside and outside his inner circle. The political tensions and rivalries among his generals, the Diadochi, provide a strong motive for foul play. One of the prime suspects is Antipater, Alexander's regent in Macedonia. Antipater had clashed with Alexander over governance issues and reportedly feared being removed from power. Ancient sources suggest Antipater may have sent poison to Babylon through his son Cassander, who was present at Alexander's court. The method of poisoning, however, raises questions. Ancient poisons, such as those derived from hemlock or arsenic, typically acted quickly. Yet Alexander's symptoms reportedly lasted for several days, which doesn't align with most known toxins. Some historians counter this by suggesting that the use of slow-acting poisons, such as extracts from certain plants, could have prolonged the illness. Accounts from writers like Plutarch and Justin hint at the possibility of poison, but provide little concrete evidence. For example, they describe how Alexander became ill after drinking a large bowl of wine, a detail that could suggest tampering. However, this could just as easily point to alcohol poisoning or contaminated wine. Additionally, the chaotic state of Alexander's empire and the power vacuum created by his death lend credibility to the theory of conspiracy. Without a designated successor, his generals stood to gain significant power by removing him. Despite its intrigue, the poison theory is not without flaws. For one, no physical evidence exists to support it, and ancient writers often embellished events to fit dramatic narratives. Moreover, the prolonged nature of Alexander's illness and the lack of immediate symptoms weaken the case for fast-acting toxins. Another layer of complexity is the political climate of Babylon. Alexander's court was rife with tension, and any number of disgruntled parties, from disillusioned soldiers to rival leaders, could have the means and motive to poison him. Ultimately, while poisoning remains a tantalizing possibility, it's difficult to prove. The theory highlights the dangerous and fractured environment of Alexander's inner circle, but it may be more reflective of the paranoia and intrigue surrounding his death than the actual cause. One of the more speculative theories surrounding Alexander's death is that it was the result of divine punishment or a fulfillment of a myth. To many of his contemporaries, Alexander was not just a man, he was a figure intertwined with destiny, gods, and omens. His death, some believed, was not natural but ordained by higher powers. He famously traced his lineage to Zeus through his mother, Olympias, and was declared the son of the Egyptian god Ammon during his visit to the Siwa oasis. By adopting titles and rituals befitting a god, Alexander elevated himself to the status that could challenge even the gods themselves. Some ancient accounts suggest that his hubris might have provoked divine retribution. Babylon, where Alexander died, was considered a sacred city, and his actions there were viewed by some as sacrilegious. For example, he reportedly ignored warnings from Babylonian priests who advised against entering the city due to ill omens. The timing of his death also coincided with a series of troubling signs, including unusual weather events and reported collapse of a temple. These superstitions led some to believe that Alexander's death was a punishment for offending the gods or disrupting the natural order. Others argue that the idea of divine punishment was a myth propagated by later writers to fit Alexander's extraordinary life into a narrative of fate and prophecy. Stories of great leaders reaching untimely ends often take on a mythical quality, and Alexander's death is no exception. It's possible that his followers, struggling to comprehend how such a powerful figure could die so suddenly, turned to divine explanations. This theory reflects the mindset of the ancient world, where the line between history and mythology was often blurred. While divine punishment cannot be proven, the theory highlights the enduring mystique of Alexander the Great. His death, like his life, became a story larger than reality, adding another layer to his legendary status. Alexander the Great's death remains one of history's greatest enigmas. Whether he succumbed to illness, was poisoned by rivals, or fell victim to the wrath of gods, his untimely demise changed the course of history. Without Alexander, the empire he built fragmented, plunging the ancient world into chaos. His legacy as a conqueror endures, but the questions surrounding his death continue to captivate historians and enthusiasts alike. Was Alexander's death the result of human ambition, divine intervention, or a tragic accident? Perhaps, like his extraordinary life, the truth is destined to remain a mystery.